Deer season starts next week for archery in Vermont, and I'm up here in one of my tree stands. Deer hunting for me, more than anything, is an act of ecological responsibility. In parts of Vermont and really across a lot of the North American continent, we know that deer overpopulations as a result of a lot of different things: decreasing winter severity, the fact that we killed off their major predators, and a variety of other factors has led to deer populations that are completely unsustainable. When deer populations are too high, they browse and graze young trees and plants in the forest understory. And while they may seem pretty innocuous, understory diversity and the ability of a forest to regenerate itself is really, really important to the habitat that it offers and to its overall health. What happens in areas where deer browse is really bad is that they can actually steer the composition of a forest towards species of trees and plants that they don't like to eat. In some areas, species of plants like orchids can become absent from the forest. In areas where it's really, really bad, it can even drive this process known as forest disintegration, which is basically where the regeneration of the forest halts entirely. In a world where deer populations are on the rise and where overpopulation is a really significant threat to our biodiversity, the habitats that our forests offer, their ability to be resilient in a changing climate, it's really, really important that we do something about it. And so even though I think that every one of these deer is beautiful, and I think that they have intrinsic value and the right to exist, it's our responsibility to use what power we have to try and create a healthier forest. And part of that means stepping into our role as the predator of this animal. During bow season, I am hunting for does, for antlerless deer. The reason for that is because a buck can mate with multiple does, killing bucks does very little to reduce the deer population. To some people, killing does has traditionally been taboo just for that reason, right? Some hunters just want to see more deer in the landscape, more bucks, etc. So usually during bow season, I'm passing up bucks to shoot does. I don't want a trophy on the wall. I want a sustainable population of deer on this landscape. One of the fun and challenging things about becoming a doe hunter is letting go of all of these elements of pride and machismo that have defined the way that I learned how to hunt. For instance, instead of hunting these big trophy bucks, I'm hunting these little does. Instead of trying to shoot one big deer, I'm trying to fill my tags. I'm trying to shoot 4 deer, 4 does every year. Vermont recently made it legal for anyone to hunt with a crossbow. So instead of having a cool compound bow or recurve bow, I just have this crossbow with a scope on it that shoots really well, is really easy to sight in, is super duper accurate and powerful. Instead of going hunting in these epic tracts of big woods, I'm going to the most overpopulated areas that I can find. So in Vermont, that means Champlain Valley, these really suburban areas. One of the reasons that's driving deer overpopulation is the increase in forest fragmentation and suburbanization, creating all these areas where deer's main predator, humans, can't access. Deer will move from these areas where there's lots of hunters into these areas with few hunters. And then these highly overpopulated areas ultimately become source populations. So they're breeding deer that are then going out into the rest of the landscape. Neat things about hunting archery is that it's way safer to be using in these smaller constricted environments. It's not like we're shooting rifle bullets that are going to travel hundreds of yards. We're shooting a crossbow bolt on a downward trajectory into the ground that's going to travel maybe 30 or 40 yards. For me, making all these changes in the way that I hunt has been radical. Similar to asking myself how we can reform forest management to make it a real force for good, becoming a doe hunter has meant that I'm able to exert the maximum positive influence that I can with my time and my energy as a hunter to contribute positively to the ecology and the biodiversity of this forest and this landscape. And even though every time I shoot one of these deer, it breaks my heart, it's an act of ecological responsibility, and it's something that I'm really proud of.